Oh, I think that was muted. Once again, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Trading Home live stream. Today's FOMC day, so we're going to have probably some action in the indexes. The Nasdaq is mostly flat from yesterday's close. We got some volatility on the overnight session. We traded up to 28,175 and then we came all the way down to 656, and then basically we're right in the middle, so middle of the range and very close to yesterday's close. So mostly flat this morning. The ES, similar story. The ES especially has been bouncing between these zones here at 74.46 and 74.41, and this one up here. So you've got those cluster of zones that basically have been acting as support and resistance in the overnight session. This morning in the pre-market around 8 o'clock, we've had this level of support at 74.57.5. That was support, and then resistance came from the upper zone at 74.66. So that's where we're trading on the ES. So we'll be watching those levels primarily on the ES. I like those two clusters that have been the most important levels at the overnight. So that's mostly what I'm looking at on the ES. And in terms of stocks, I have 4 open here. I've got Bloom Energy, BE on the top middle. I've got CrowdStrike below it, and then I've got SK Hynix and Google. So let's take them one by one. Bloom Energy reported earnings last night, and we got a big gap up about 10%, and it's been holding quite nicely. So interested to see what Bloom Energy does this morning. On the daily chart, let's close this. It's been quite oversold. It's bouncing on the 200 simple moving average, so quite an important spot. We'll see what it does here. A bit of selling off right at the open. As usual, I don't really trade the first few minutes of the market open. We just let the volatility do its thing, and then once things settle down and the price action becomes clearer, I'll be looking at some trades. CrowdStrike. I like CrowdStrike because it did hit some major support on the daily chart right on top of this range here. And it bounced quite significantly yesterday. So that's why I'm looking at CrowdStrike here this morning. SK Hynix also reported earnings last night. Not a lot of movement resulted from that, bit of a sell-off, and then it came all the way up again. So I don't really have a bias on SKHY. I just want to see what happens and which zones hold and which don't, and we'll see what the price action does basically. So the ES right now at support at 74.46. That's that cluster of daily and weekly flip zones here. Same on Bloom Energy, a bit of a bounce at 173.3. That's the daily zone, and Google is also sitting at support at 333. The Nasdaq is currently being rejected by this cluster of 3 different daily flip zones. That's this whole area right here. A bit early to take any trades. Looks like SKHY is trying to break above that daily zone at 130.83. And Google is also using the daily zones here as support so far. Bit early still, of course. Nasdaq also trying to make its way through this cluster of zones here. And the ES has bounced on its areas of support at 74.46 as we expected here. As I said earlier, remember this has been strong support at the overnight session. Right here, you see how many times it hit the zone and it held. It even tried to break below it and it held again. So this is quite an important area on the ES. Everything moving quite a bit higher so far. Nasdaq looks like it does want to break above the zones, but keep in mind that it just reached the top end of that range, which is where sellers might be waiting there. Google was very, very strong yesterday. We'll see what it does this morning. Had a big gap down after it reported earnings. But looks like it wants to move higher from here. So we'll keep Google on watch. Bloom Energy, big bounce off of that daily zone at 173.3. Nasdaq is breaking out above the daily zones, and SKHY also looks like it's moving higher quite aggressively, broke above the daily zone. Now if it does a return to it, that will form the good old break and retest that you all know I really like as a confirmation setup. There's that selling on NQ on the top of the range, 27,970. SKHY bouncing on top of that zone at 130.83. Nasdaq big rejection on the top of the range as we expected here. And CrowdStrike also looks like it's reversing that big spike off the open. But it is sitting on that monthly zone at 183.11, which could work as support. But with the market kind of changing its mind, might make taking longs a little bit trickier. But this is an area of support on CrowdStrike and also on SKHY. try an SKHY long. Not in yet. Not convinced with that price actions still. I need to see a bit more buying on SKHY for a long setup. Google holding pretty nicely. Holding above those levels that it bounced right off the open, $333. Yeah, a bit of a reversal here in the market. Tried to move higher, got heavily rejected on top of the flip zones, and then we're moving lower from there. Bit of a rejection on Google as well, right under the quarterly zone. That's the yellow shaded area, 335.7. But the ES is holding. It is holding above that cluster of zones here. So that's quite encouraging for continuation higher. If the ES is able to break above this little area of consolidation, would be a good long setup. It is trying to hold this little consolidation. Google did get rejected off of that quarterly zone, 335.7. So probably a little bit of a range between these levels until we break either above or below. Good morning, Val. I think everybody is on summer holidays. Very few traders around these days. I'm interested in taking this SKHY long around here. I like this little bounce on VWAP. We need to break above 130.9 for me to have a setup to go along SKHY. So I got the long at on SKHY at 130 point, what's my fill, 93, and I'm basically targeting a new high of day, 133.58, something like this. My stop is 129.46. Also, Google looks good for a potential trade here if it breaks above 334.4. But we need the market to turn higher. Otherwise, it will be difficult to get good long setups as long as the market is not participating in the upside. Bloom Energy lost the momentum that it had earlier, and it looks like it might want to move lower. SKHY still holding. Looks like it's trying to make up its mind what it wants to do here. Google back at yesterday's close at 332.6. Nasdaq breaking below the low of day. Let's see if we can see a reversal here off of that low of day break. SK Hynix really trying to hold that VWAP and daily flip zone here. But pretty much every other stock I'm watching has given up on the upside right off the open. It's moving lower except SK Hynix. But we need some broader participation for this SKHY long setup to work. It can't just be the only stock that's moving higher. We need a little bit of participation from the broader market. I've just added to my SKHY long. We're seeing a nice hold here on that VWAP and daily zone. So I just double that position now that it's moving nicely. And you're moving lower, below the low of day at 27,838, prior low of day. Now making new lows. In all this, Apple has been moving higher. Fortunately, I was focused on the other stock and I didn't see it on time for a long setup on Apple. I just sold half of my position on SKHY. That's the ad that I had that I put in around here. Just because it's moving lower now. I'm holding the other half because I still believe this can go higher today. But the Nasdaq is continuing the downtrend. There's a hold on SK Hynix here as it broke below that prior swing low and found buyers and kept going higher now. So I added back to my to the ad that I sold earlier. CrowdStrike hitting the daily zone at 179.6. That's the lowest zone that we have, at least in today's range. The next one is all the way down here at 173.6, so that's quite far away, not really relevant right now. Apple, a pause on this uptrend on that weekly zone. It hit the weekly zone here at 343.45, and it's reversing lower. Let's see if this is just a pullback or a reversal of this uptrend for the day. ES approaching the daily zone at 74.17, or is that, yeah, 18. Big area here with the weekly zone right under it. SKY just needed to break below the day's high, the day's low, and do a little spring setup and move higher from there. Just to stop everybody out and continue higher. Google, I will have another long setup if it breaks above 332.18. That's this prior swing high here. If we can break above it, that'll be a good setup on Google. There's a move higher on SKHY. Still in SKHY. Looking to sell maybe half of SKHY here at the high. Just want it a little bit higher. Yeah, here we go. I just sold half of my SKHY. The fill was 133.59. Didn't get the best fill, but yeah. Oh, there, a big move. I'm gonna sell a little bit more of SKHY at 135.95. I just have a limit order there. 135. Well, actually, I'll put it at 90, honestly. Just around, yeah, 135.89 is my target, my next target on SKHY. Was a bit slow to buy this Apple little breakout here. I still want the breakout on Google above 332.18. Let's see if that happens. So I have a stop order to to enter Google at 332.19 long. Got filled on my next exit on SKHY at 135.89. I have about 30% of my position left on SKHY. Bit of a reversal on SKHY on that daily zone at 136, right on top of that zone. Google, I really like this potential breakout here at 332.19, 18, somewhere there. I do have an order to enter there. I am considering this Google. Well, I like the fact that it is not breaking down and the fact that it has put in a nice range here. If we can break above it, I'm not saying that it will work, I'm just saying that if it does break above, it has a lot of room to make a quite sizable move until, at least until 333.6. SKHY, I am still long SKHY. Now we're coming up to this level of support here, 332.5. We'll see what it does there. The market is moving lower, so it's not great for long setups, for sure. But at the same time, I don't see any great short setups either. Apple is too strong to take it long, to take it short. Yeah, now Google is breaking down, so I'm not sure I like that long anymore at 332. Maybe if it can make it all the way up here, that would be pretty bullish, but I don't see it happening right now on Google. Yeah, big move lower in the market. Difficult to take any longs for sure. Apple is at VWAP. I like this potential SpaceX short here. So I did get a short on SpaceX. I got filled, didn't have the greatest fill, but I got filled at 113.32. And I am targeting a new low of the day. With the market moving lower, I just thought this short probably makes a bit of sense. Might get stopped out here. Yeah, I got stopped out here in SpaceX. Oh, very nice trade there on the Russell. Well done, Black Crayon. That's good. That's really nice. Break and retests. I love that setup. It's just so consistent. So I just flipped too long on SpaceX now at 114.08. The reason I did that is because we tried to break the short-term low here and we got rejected basically. We got bought up. So there are buyers here active. And it doesn't seem like the VWAP right above is deterring them. So I like the long now on SpaceX. We'll see if that works. So the SpaceX long is working. I just went long Google here as well at 331.16. The reason for the Google long, did I say long or short? Well, in any case, I went long Google at 131.09. Was it on or what was my fill? No, my fill was 16. But basically I saw this little higher high here right after we broke below the short-term low at 131.07, and I liked it because it showed me a little bit of strength. And I still think that Google can move higher for the day. So I think it's worth the risk here. CrowdStrike broke below the daily zone, then broke above it, and now it's holding it as support here. Big move higher on Google right after we broke that minor resistance here where I took my long. SpaceX a little indecisive, not gonna lie. We're not seeing a ton of strength coming in, but we're also sitting at support on the ES. So things are not that bad either. Very nice move higher on Google here. I'm gonna sell a little bit of Google here just because we had a really nice big move. I want to protect some profits. So I just sold a little bit at 332.51. The daily zone was basically the high of day on SKHY, and same on NQ up here, 27,976. The same on Google, reverse off of that quarterly zone at 335.66. And the same on SpaceX as it reversed on the weekly zone at 115.6. If you just trade with the zones, basically you're doing pretty well. Looks It does look like that exit on Google at 332.51 was pretty good. Right here, basically. Right at the low of this flip zone at 332.53. Considering which one of these stocks look the best for another long setup, as the market is trying to make a bit of a higher high here. Well, not yet, but I'm kind of anticipating. If the market was to bottom here, which one of these stocks would look the best for a reversal higher? And my top candidates, let's see. SKHY is a strong contender because it is trading above its opening print. The only one that is doing that from all the stocks I'm looking at. Google also looks pretty good. It's not above its opening print, but yesterday's strength was pretty significant on Google amidst the market sell-off. So the trade basically is, can Google continue the strength today if the market is able to reverse a little bit and continue higher? I'm still on Google. SKHY rejected from the VWAP at 131.05, but it still looks good if it can break above this short-term high that it put in. That's basically the rejection high at 131.39. The ES is being rejected from the weekly zone at 74.09. CrowdStrike also looks pretty good for a potential long if it is able to break above this little consolidation that it's been putting in. But it will need a little bit of help from the market. As long as we're making lower lows on the market, I don't think the long setups will be able to work. Apple also looks pretty good. It's been going sideways for a while now, and it's sitting on top of that daily zone at 341.2. So a break above VWAP here, 341.8. If the market can also reverse at that point, it will be a pretty good entry for potential return to the high. Okay, so it is 10:45. This is the end of the live stream. Just as a recap or as a summary here, I'm still on Google with my average at 332.6 and SKHY with an average at 131.76. So I'll probably be holding these trades, looking for a new high of day or at least a push higher from here. Well done there, Black Crayon. Very nice break and retest trade on the ES. We had several actually. Actually, the best one was this one, right? We had two. We had this one here and this one. So both great break and retest entries on the ES. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Take care. Bye-bye.